Hello and welcome to a very special episode of the BBB podcast with me, Andrew, but no Stephen today. I am, however, joined by Kenny and Henry from the PBA, that's the Professional Boxers Affiliation, and the lads are going to tell me all about their concept, their idea to try and unite boxing and boxers with a union of sorts. Hopefully something that's going to provide a bit of reassurance, a bit of insurance and security for those entering, journeying through and exiting the sport. Just going back to the start, like for those who aren't aware, what is it that you're both looking to achieve with the Professional Boxers Affiliation?
So what we're looking to achieve is pretty much creating a membership body similar to those in other sports. So like the PFA, the PCA, the PJA for the Jockey Association. And really what we're looking to do is provide free overall services, which are financial planning, which will cover pension planning for after career, insurance stuff as well, mental well-being. So with our partnership with Sporting Chance, and hopefully with the formation of the PBA Trust, which we're looking to launch with donations, which we have a Just Giving page for as well, which will go towards mental health within the sport and transition to retirement. So we have a partnership with LAPS as well, which is Life After Professional Sport. And they cover anything to do with education to secondary career job searching for athletes who have just retired. And yeah, we're trying to create a well-rounded service like that, similar to, as I said, other association bodies, and really push that forward for boxing, which I know obviously a lot of people feel like it's needed within the sport. There's a lot of talk about, obviously, in terms of retirement, boxers who go and retire and come back because they don't actually have anything to replace boxing, which they had before when they retire. So yeah, we're looking to create that body and hopefully, yeah, get the momentum going with it and push it forward.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head there, saying that a lot of people within the sport will be feeling that it is much needed. It's probably long overdue. How come you two decided to do it? Like, what was it that sort of forced your hand, or not forced you into it, but give you that push to think, well, actually, yeah, we're going to be the ones to bring this to boxing?
I think, well, on a personal level, I think myself and Kenny just got a bit fed up of seeing about boxers that have come retired and struggled. And we had a chat about, I don't know, probably a couple of years ago now, Kenny, but just saying that we should have a look if there's something like this on offer. And then kind of forgot about it since lockdown happened, realised we were just kind of twisting our thumbs a bit, and then thought, right, we'll have a proper go at this, had a look. And even with regards to actual charities within the sport, there's very little compared to other sports. So I know for example, the jockeys. So from the beginning, myself and Kenny have said there's a lot of similarities between boxers and jockeys in terms of the weight like requirements, and also the discrepancy in wealth between the elite and the everyday jockey, really, that rides every day, which is obviously very similar to boxing. So we had a look, and yeah, as I said, there's nothing really in terms of charity. There's been a few attempts. I don't want to like gloss over them. Like a few attempts to establish this. For example, Barry McGuigan famously tried to establish the Professional Boxers Association, but obviously didn't come to fruition. But that was probably I think that was in the 1990s. But now times have changed, particularly with for example, Frank Bruno, Ricky Hatton, Tyson Fury, their open struggles on mental health, I think has brought to light that this sport does need to change in regards to that. And I think that's when myself and Kenny thought we could try and do something there.
Yeah, I mean, mental health it's a massive issue now, isn't it? And you mentioned a few very high profile examples within boxing who are becoming more transparent with that, and especially amongst men, it's becoming more acceptable to discuss mental health and mental well-being. And you've got a section on the website there that I noticed when I had a little look through about exactly that, mental well-being. How important is that, and how exactly do you see yourself tackling that within boxing? It's such a broad topic. I think it's a potential obstacle. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I mean, it's like it's linked to everything else that we want to offer in terms of helping with retirement, financial planning. It all goes back to mental well-being. If you haven't got plans for retirement and you retire from the sport, which you train every day, fight 4 or 5 times a year, maybe even more, then you're going to be lost. You're not going to have an output, and I think that's why a lot of boxers do struggle. Also, with the fact that there's not like a pension fund type of thing set out for boxers, they often leave the sport with very little to show for it, which obviously, unfortunately. But yeah, I agree that it is going to be an obstacle. As Kenny mentioned, partnership with Sporting Chance, which is a sporting mental health charity set up by Tony Adams. They offer a range of services, counselling. They've got a rehab clinic for those addicted to gambling and alcohol addiction and things like that. And I think another area that we want to focus on is education from an early level as well, particularly looking at people who have either just turned pro or working with amateur bodies as well. And actually, when we're allowed, obviously, going in and speaking to these boxers, and because I know they do something similar in the NFL where they have talks for rookies who are just turning pro about the reality of turning pro in the NFL, like how injuries, finances, things like that. It's not just, you're not going to be, I can't think of an NFL player, but like you're not going to be number one in the sport.
Tom Brady.
Exactly.
Probably the only one I could name as well.
So yeah, just like about the reality, and I think that's what we eventually want to do as well. But as I said, like I don't want to run before we can walk. But it's just about education and prevention of various things. But yeah, I don't know if you've got anything to add, Kenny.
Well, yeah, we had a conversation with a counsellor not too long ago before the second lockdown called Kevin Hempstead, and he's been around boxing. He knows a lot of former champions or people who have fought for world title fights. I can't think of any names at the moment, but he was talking about coping mechanisms, and how boxing is a really good coping mechanism for emotions that you feel throughout your life. But when you retire, that coping mechanism is obviously gone. So a big part of what we're trying to do is focus on that transition to retirement and the mental health problems that boxers face when they retire, because that coping mechanism is taken away from them and it turns into things such as gambling or drinking or cocaine addiction, which he highlighted during our meeting. And I think he has a blog post as well on his website. I'm not sure if we can find it, and hopefully we'll put it out there at one point. But yeah, so it's tackling that after the sport and trying to find a plan that boxers can have, so when they retire they have something to go to and they don't get lost, and they have a coping mechanism for the issues that they're facing.
It's interesting that you've mentioned that, almost like the transition from boxing, unfortunately for many, goes into that addiction and that dependence on something, because they've lost that. You mentioned it perfectly there, the coping mechanism. It's almost like an addiction to the sport. It's all a lot of these men and women have known from a very, very young age. And to be honest, being in a boxing ring, getting punched, doing the punching, it's probably an acquired taste in itself. And I think, yeah, you're exactly right. They're the things you've mentioned. Like education is obviously key from that young age. And how exactly do you envisage helping boxers cope? Like, what is it other than just like the financial support that you think will enable them to transition from the sport to a life after it?
Okay.
So yeah, helping them cope, really. We're looking to do a lot of work with charities such as Mind, Samaritans, Calm, and use a lot of resources that they have and put them out there as for educational purposes on our website. So obviously at the moment, as Henry said, we can't actually go into gyms and we can't speak to boxers. So a lot of it will be through online education and using the resources that Mind and other mental health charities put out there so well. And yeah, it's just trying to push the agenda that is going with mental health at the moment and breaking down the stigma and making sure boxers talk about their issues, and especially with their families as well, and their issues that maybe family members have of boxers that they're concerned about, that they can come forward to us as well and we can deal with it. I know the PCA Trust does that, and they do a lot of work for family members of cricketers during their career and after their career. So yeah, we're looking to emulate the models that other association bodies use in that sense, and hopefully push that forward. And yeah, it's at the moment it's difficult times, as we all know. But yeah, it's just the educational purposes and the resources that we can gather and put out there is really important.
Well, when we spoke to Kevin, Kevin Hempstead, who Kenny previously mentioned, he said about how he would be very interested in going to the gyms and speaking. Obviously, wouldn't want to one-man mission, but like just things like that that could help raise awareness and help educate the realities of professional boxing.
And then one of the main sort of sparks, I suppose, causes of like depression and the sort of, I don't know, word other than like depression itself, but there's a lot of pressure, and we talked about the times we're in now, even like more so a lot of pressures and a lot of problems that people are going through, and ultimately like financial problems are a huge contributor to mental health issues and to worries. So you talked earlier about like providing that financial support, which I'm sure will prick a lot of boxers' ears up, because it'll ease that burden on them and hopefully make it a little easier. How exactly are you going to help provide for the boxers financially? It's notoriously like a Wild West sport. You've already mentioned the huge gap between the elites and the top earners in the sport, and the money not always filtering its way down.
So we're going to work with Cartledge Moreland, a company called Cartledge Moreland, who they run the pension scheme for the Jockey Association. So obviously the prize money in jockey is quite different compared to the prize money in boxing, because it's paid to individual like courses first, and it goes through one individual bank, and then a percentage of it's already taken out. But what we plan to do, instead of taking money away from boxers' purses, because we don't want to do that, we know that wouldn't be very popular, like considering how much percentage is already taken away. We want to, this is probably the main reason behind the campaign, we want to gain the attention of the broadcasters, because let's remember, almost every other sporting association gets money from broadcasters. So we want to try and get the fair share for boxing from broadcasters, and go into this pension fund that then per each fight, depending on how many rounds it's scheduled for, a fee is added to this individual pension fund for our members or professional boxers. And then once they retire, they can then work with Cartledge Moreland to renew it and gain it eventually.
It's a fantastic innovation, to be honest, and what you've said there about not taking the money out of the boxers' purses initially, I think that's, talk about potential obstacles, that's a hurdle cleared, and it will be for many boxers at all levels, because you hit the nail on the head, really, lads, saying about how much seems to get taken out, how many hands are there waiting for a little cut, whether it be managers, promoters, advisors, whoever it may be. And I'm not saying that they're not justified in doing that, they all play a role in the sport, but one of my main issues with it is just how many non-boxers are earning and taking money out of the sport. And we've seen so many stories, not necessarily the high profile ones, but of boxers who struggling to almost break even on a fight by fight basis, especially now with the lack of ticket sales. And it's going to take, obviously you seem to be flying with it, to be honest, in terms of the creativity and the thinking around it. I think as I said earlier in the call, there's not going to be many that are reluctant to this sort of concept coming into the sport. And with that in mind, why do you think it hasn't happened before? You mentioned obviously the earlier example of the 1990s with Barry McGuigan. Why do you think it hasn't successfully taken off since then?
I suppose a lot of it just might come down to reluctancy to change. I had a phone call with Jim McDonnell, who said he was part of the previous PBA, and it was just reluctance to change. But that was all that time ago, and we feel that now there's a lot of movement that we can gather, or momentum, sorry, that we can gather through boxers and also through fans as well. If we can get the sport of fans on the side, who are, you know, the most skeptical fan group of any sport, and we'll talk about boxing more than any other sport. We can get them on side. If we can get boxers on side, we can get the stakeholders within boxing on side and push it forward, then hopefully that reluctance to change will shrink and the odds will go in our favor, and we can create something that, you know, is destined and is needed for boxing and will help professional boxers, not just now, but in years to come as well. And hopefully we can just put the foundations in place now and just build it as we go. That's really important.
Oh, and like as we've said previously and earlier tonight, like I'm more than happy from a British Boxing Blog point of view to help spread that message. It's something that we firmly agree with and believe in, and as I say, it's got potential to be a really innovative addition to the sport. I think you should both be really proud of the work that you've done so far, and again, the website's looking slick as well. I must add, it's looking good. One of the other sections on there is it's talking about the insurance as well. Like that's probably going to be again. I'm just feel like I'm going through your list of key points here of the whole concept. But we talked about like the mental health, looking after the well-being, educating not just the boxers but the people in the sport as well, and obviously like the financial aspect of easing boxers into retirement. How, from your point of view, does the insurance side of things logistically work? I imagine it's an absolute minefield and an absolute nightmare at times to insure a boxer.
Yeah, so the discussion that we've had with insurance has been a confusing one, but I've got one tomorrow again. But yeah, a lot of it comes down to, so there'll be two services hopefully that will be offered, and one will be personal cover. So our insurers, the insurance firm that we're working with, All Sport Insurance, who work with all the other association groups pretty much, talk about personal cover, which will be cheaper, say car insurance, home insurance, or the smaller personal cover, which sports people usually get at a higher rate because they are sports people. So All Sport will look to cover that as a cheaper rate. And then career ending and accidental death insurance, which is something that we looked at in a way because we feel that with the PBA trust that we've set up, and that we hopefully look to progress further, is that there's not a lot of support for families who have had boxers who have been seriously injured or have died in the ring, unfortunately. So having an accidental death cover will help the families as well as the trust that we set up. But yeah, also with the cover that the accidental death or career ending insurance will offer. So yeah, they're the two insurance schemes that we will look to offer. But yeah, I think the personal cover insurance one's really important because I don't think people actually realise it, that if they're putting their name down as a sports person or a boxer or a professional, whatever, that is more expensive. And if they do it in the name of another occupation and they do crash their car or something does happen to their home, then they can't actually claim that insurance. So having that cheaper rate is something that we feel is really important and will help a lot of people without even realising.
Yeah, I mean, that's something, to be honest, I've probably thought of, and it makes perfect sense when you say it out loud and you mention it, but it is probably overlooked by a lot of people who even like follow the sport and watch boxing, because we know from personal experience there are a lot of boxers out there, professional licensed boxers, who do hold other jobs, and if they're putting down another profession and obviously they're licensed as a professional boxer on the side, potential complications there, I suppose, as well.
Yeah, that's what they say of the All Sport that I've said about the other sporting groups as well, about the people within that group, that they're working 2 jobs, such as, I'm trying to think of it, I think the jockeys, a lot of jockeys, they don't get paid as much as well, similar to boxing, or only maybe 3% earn that elite amount of money where they can just be a jockey, but they put themselves down as their second occupation, and obviously those complications do occur. So having a straight, easy going scheme that won't cause any complications and future insurance problems that hopefully none of them have anyway. But having that in place is really important.
Yeah, it's that added security for what's a very insecure profession, I suppose. With regards to, you mentioned the potential funding coming from the broadcasters and stuff, how would that work in terms of the boxers who don't have any, I don't want to say any access to those broadcasters? If we look at boxing in this country, obviously the 2 main ones at the moment, Sky Sports and BT Sports, they're the ones with potentially the deepest pockets. What incentive is there for those broadcasters to fund boxers that aren't really adding any value to their product?
Well, I think broadcasters in general want to be seen as promoting the well-being of the sport, of any sport they promote. I mean, the PFA receive funding from Sky as well, and the National League. I mean, unfortunately, I support a National League team, so I'm aware of this, but they get money, and the National League isn't on Sky. So I can see where you're coming from, but hopefully, I'm not being naive, but hopefully it's not too much of an issue, because as I said, a lot of these broadcasters do want to promote the good of the sport and fly the flag for mental health and things like that as well. But I also think that many of these fighters might end up fighting on a Sky card or a BT card, even if it's just once in their career. They're still giving something to the broadcaster. So I don't see why there's any reason why the broadcaster can't give something back to them.
I'd like to think so anyway. I would definitely like to think so with that one. What about boxers themselves? We've talked about sort of the ones lower down the pyramid and lower down the tiers that maybe don't get the support, and they're the ones that we feel could do with a bit more security and reassurance around their career. But what about those elite ones? Would there be any encouragement towards those to maybe obviously put their name to it, but then some sort of financial commitment as well, and really be the flag bearers for the whole affiliation?
We hope so. Yeah, we hope they do come forward and do support the ideas that we have, especially with the retirement thing, because I think all boxers can appreciate, or can recognise that retirement, or former boxers, sorry, that can recognise, no matter how good you are, whether you're fighting a southern area or whether you're a 2-time world champion, that retirement in boxing is the hardest part of it. So we hope that all boxers from all levels can get behind that scheme especially. And you never know what's going to happen in boxing. You don't know, your career could end in one fight. So having the schemes that we have in place, the security that we can add, hopefully all boxers, as you say, the elite ones, can be the flag bearers and can understand what we're trying to come for, and support what we have in place, because we feel that everyone is whether you're an elite boxer or whether you're lower down the pecking order, there's that respect that everyone is stepping into the ring and everyone is fighting. So hopefully that can create a solidarity and the community feel almost that can bring boxers together and can bring the flag bearer of the elite boxers in and push the schemes that we have forward.
And also with regards to, I mean, even the cases I mentioned earlier with like Frank Bruno, Ricky Hatton, Tyson Fury, they're elite level fighters. And Ricky Hatton said in an interview with Jamie Carragher a couple of months ago how there should be a union for professional boxers, and there isn't one. So that's just an example of an elite level boxer who, retired obviously, but who would support it, and so hopefully others would follow the things he says.
And as well as the boxers themselves, just what can the the average fan do. We are basically followed by the average fan and a few strange ones as well. But if there are any fans that our followers are listening, like, what can they physically do to help support you?
Go out, get a PBA t-shirt, walk the streets and do that. No,
Not allowed out now, man.
no, just follow us, keep up to date with what we're doing. Hopefully all the fans who are watching this appreciate the work that we're trying to do here with boxers. You know, everyone who likes boxing or who's a fan of boxing has that respect for people stepping into the ring and understands that, you know, they themselves probably wouldn't do it. So hopefully, just follow us and just keep up to date with what we're doing. And obviously, I think the more people that get behind it, hopefully we can, you know, get the stakeholders of the sport to recognise that this is a real movement and it has a lot of legitimacy and credibility to it, and we can push it, you know, to however far it can go.
And where do they follow you? What are your specific social media tags and the website address?
Yeah, so the website address is www.pbaffiliation.co.uk, and then our Twitter and Instagram is at PBA, all capitals, and then affiliation. So affiliation, capital A, PB. We probably need to edit that in somewhere, but no.
I'll drop a link in there.
Yeah, that's it.
In the SoundCloud and Spotify and all our channels. Obviously, I saw the other day you followed us on Twitter. We followed you back, and obviously we're more than happy. We'll share everything that we see from you, and see we'll push this as well, get some listens in. But is there any other final message? Anything else you want to wrap up with, boys?
No, not that I can think of. If you've lasted this long, thanks for listening.
No, just if there's any boxers out there who are listening to this at the moment and, you know, are interested in what we're doing and want to get behind us or have any questions, just our emails on the website. Obviously you can message on Twitter or Instagram. I'd be more than happy to listen to any issues and anything that boxers feel that could be added to this. It's not just me and Henry have made it, but we're open to suggestions and we're open to people's opinions and how we can help the sport of boxing. So anything that people have to say, just get hold of us and we're more than happy to help.
Nice one. Thank you very much, gents, and sincerely all the best with it. I really hope it's a success.
Thank you. Cheers. Thanks for the support as well.
Cheers,
Thanks.